Alright, let's be honest. I don't think anyone was clamoring for a fourth Planet of the Apes movie. The Caesar trilogy was a perfect self-contained narrative series that wrapped up really cleanly, so most audiences were fine letting it live on as a good trilogy. But when Disney bought Fox and announced this movie 2 years ago, we all kinda saw this coming, didn't we? Disney loves money and these movies made a lot of critical and financial acclaim. But I don't know if Disney knows this, but the Planet of the Apes reboot was a massive fluke. I don't think this series should have worked the way it did, because these had 2 different directors and 4 writers. They all balanced so many different tones, storylines. But somehow they told a coherent, powerful, and amazing combined narrative that the Star Wars sequels wished they could pull off. With how much people are still talking about this series, it's no wonder Disney saw dollar signs. But could they capture that lightning in a bottle and narrative synergy the original Caesar trilogy had? Well, I have good news for you. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes ended up being kinda good, and something I don't mind seeing more of, which is a massive shocker because in pre-production it didn't have the goodwill the Caesar trilogy had. None of the writers, directors, or the original cast were returning. This was meant to be a fresh story, with a fresh cast with a fresh creative crew. You can imagine people weren't gonna be happy when none of the characters you saw throughout the trilogy were returning. My girlfriend especially was so pissed they didn't at least try to make a story with Caesar's youngest son from the trilogy. But instead of pulling a Star Wars sequel trilogy and reusing characters from the main trilogy here, this movie just wipes the slate clean by setting itself centuries after the Caesar trilogy. Caesar's lineage is long gone, he's just a legend now to this new breed of apes. And off the bat, I like that idea. I'm glad that they left the trilogy relatively intact for this era, and they tried its best to both honor its legacy and shape a new direction for the franchise. It's a really ballsy move, and I will appreciate that. Actually, here's more things I appreciate. The visual effects are really top-notch. With Rise being more than 10 years old, it's really cool to see how far the motion capture tech has come. The apes look really good, the set pieces are super interesting, and the art direction of the world is stellar. I love post-apocalyptic landscapes, and considering this set centuries later, it's completely believable. Wes Ball's direction is also really good, with the pacing being pretty smooth for the first 2 acts of the movie. The action sequences are tight, kinetic, and fast-paced, and this movie has a lot of action sequences, more than the Caesar trilogy actually. There's a lot of good variety too, taking place in a village-esque environment, an open field, and a tight claustrophobic industrial area. It also feels like they were trying to balance out the talky drama segments with some high energy. That works for the most part, except for the 3rd act, but I'll get to that when we talk spoilers. The performances are really good too. We follow Noah, as his clan was taken hostage by this other clan of apes, with his father killed as a result. You can just feel his pain and determination to see this mission through. There are also some scenes where he tries to live up to his father's role as the chief, and they do it with an eagle. They weren't half bad and the payoff is pretty good. Kevin Durant's antagonist is really well done too. He has this Logan Paul-ass energy with his performance, and it's super charismatic. Considering there are only 2 humans, you get to know them both and what they want in this stage. The conflicting ideologies of never giving up and complete submission to the apes could have used more development, but it's still easy to understand. It's pretty thematic with the idea from Dawn that the humans will never stop fighting to take back what they lost. I'm trying to be as vague as possible because to explain what I don't like, I'm gonna have to talk spoilers. But one more thing I do want to mention is something that has been annoying me since War. Don't make the apes equally fluent in speech as the humans. Off the bat, I felt a little disappointed when the apes were speaking in fluent English to one another, similar to humans. I get that there's a narrative justification for this, that the virus that gifted the apes with intellect has been in their genome enough to allow them to speak fluently, but this might be a nitpick here. I miss the era when they signed all their communication and only spoke for important moments. It makes the lines they speak more impactful and powerful as a result. They tried to do something similar with this movie, which was cute, but I think having the apes be on a similar speech level just takes away the physical acting the cast of the Caesar trilogy perfected. I don't know, this might be a boomer complaint, but I just wanted to say this somewhere. Okay, before I head into talking spoilers, let me wrap up the section by saying that if you liked the previous trilogy, I'd recommend giving this movie a try. It's a little rough and it doesn't plan to live up to the Caesar trilogy, but for a standalone legacy sequel, it does its job well. I liked it, so you might enjoy it as well. Okay, spoiler time. Here we go. This movie has a smart way of honoring the legacy of the Caesar trilogy by having Caesar be this godlike figure in the ape society. As the apes migrate around the world and as Caesar is talked about less and less, some of the apes, like the main character, have no idea who he is. The antagonist of the movie names himself after Caesar and uses that concept to his own advantage by twisting Caesar's ideologies to fit his own selfish needs. That's such a cool concept to explore in a legacy sequel, and again, feels very believable for a society that's so far disconnected from what we knew. Small things like the newer generations not knowing why Caesar harbors compassion for humans, and how different his ideologies are from what Proximus is touting, how they differ from what we, the audience, knows, give the audience a lot to really think about. It's all pretty similar to how we sometimes start questioning religion in later points of our lives, or how some people use religion to invalidate entire groups of people. Too real? Too real? I think the only problem I have with this theme is how it's competing with another theme introduced in the second half. The idea that humans and apes can coexist after generations of history. Can they go back to the status quo before Koba started this war? Is the idea of peace for them just a pipe dream, or something that can be achieved? This seems like a theme they want to follow through for their potential trilogy, but I don't think they should have given it a lot of space in the first installment. I think they should have stuck to only fleshing out the idea of twisting the legacy of what we know, because it could have recontextualized our perspective of the trilogy. Why did I put so much big words in the same sentence? I had to read this link. The concept of people misusing Caesar's name to do horrible shit comes and goes so fast, when it could have been more focused on in this entry. The coexistence theme is a thing that's been harped on since Dawn, so that's not a new theme for this series. Why not focus on what is new? Because of this, the pacing suffers extremely in the third act. It's a long, drawn-out breaking and entering segment where they explore the remnants of a human military base. And I'm sorry, but at this point I was ready for this to wrap up. It goes nowhere until the very last scene, and it drags on for way too long. Trimming this out could have absolutely made the movie much tighter and flow better. Also, in the second act, we meet this loyal follower of Caesar who teaches Noah about Caesar, essentially the cliff notes of the trilogy. He's fun. He's easily the point of connection for the audience, as he's the only link we have to the Caesar trilogy, albeit really distant and disconnected. But after about 20 minutes or so, he's swept away in an action set piece, his fate unknown. I was waiting for him to come back at the end, but nothing? Is he dead? Are they gonna bring him back for a sequel? I don't know, but it just felt really unearned to delete the character who was just vibing and who was a voice of reason for Noah's most serious and stoic perspective. So do these nitpicks derail the movie entirely? No, they don't. Of course, I came in with really low expectations. Legacy sequels rarely hit the mark, but this one did. Again, that's really commendable on its own. It does stand a chance to be talked about both as a continuation of the original trilogy and as a part of the reboot series as a whole. I have a suspicion that my critiques are just the growing pains of it being the first of a planned trilogy, or because it had a lot to prove to audiences. Either way, I really do recommend this movie if you like the original Caesar trilogy. If you don't, give it a try anyway, it's very accessible to all audiences. My critiques come from someone who holds the Caesar movie in a high regard, but I'm curious to see what people who have no prior knowledge feel about this movie. 8 out of 10, this new installment won me over to the new post-Disney direction, and I'll be paying attention to the series with great interest in the years to come. Thanks for watching.